Welcome to your listening class. In this video, I will walk you through an overview of the CELPIP listening. First, you will get one unscored task at the beginning. It's just for practice, just one question to get you in the mood to get you started. After that, you will be tested on 6 different parts. You may see some additional items on the test. Do not panic. I am going to explain what these additional items are. These items are extra questions that are there for research and development purposes. They do not count towards your score in any way. They are there for research and development purposes. So, for example, you may get 7 listening parts instead of 6. But the extra one is nothing extraordinary or something you haven't seen before. So, for example, you may get 2 listening part 4, or 2 listening part 5, or 2 listening part 1. Part 1, but 2 different question tags. So you're done with your listening part 2, for example, and you expect to move to listening part 3. But again, you find another listening part 2. One of those 2 parts is the additional item. But the thing is, you do not know which one of the 2 count towards your score. You do not know which one of them CELPIP is going to rate and which one they are not going to rate. So it is very important that you give both tasks equal attention. Answer all the questions with all seriousness, as you do not know which one will count towards your score. Is it stressful? A little bit. Is it worth it? It is worth your score. Altogether, you will have around 1 hour or less to complete the listening test, and you are required to answer 38 questions. These 38 questions are broken into 6 different parts. Like the reading, the test gets difficult as it progresses. What this means is listening part 1 is not difficult, very easy. Even without the class, you're good to go. Listening part 2, easy. Part 3, the test progresses, the more difficult it gets. So what that means is listening part 5 and 6 are usually the most challenging and the most difficult parts. One of the reasons why these parts are more challenging is because, for one thing, they contain higher level vocabulary. Yes, more difficult vocabulary. So if in part 1 and part 2 you're finding easy words, in part 5 and 6 you wouldn't find so many easy words. You're going to find more difficult words than easy ones. Another thing that makes this part a little more challenging is the fact that the speaker gets a little faster. So in part 1, the speakers are usually really slow. In part 2 and part 3, but when it gets to 4, 5, and 6, they talk like real native speakers and they get really faster. If you're struggling to answer the questions, one of the many reasons could be that you find it hard to understand native speakers when they are fast. One thing that could solve that problem is to listen to native speakers every day. It doesn't have to be for a very long time, maybe while commuting to work or while doing your chores or while hanging out or relaxing for the evening. Try to listen actively, listen to native speakers every day. Every question on the listening test is multiple choice in a drop-down menu. So again, all you are doing is clicking on next. Sorry, no, all you are doing is clicking on A or B or C or D. You aren't writing anything, you aren't typing anything. One thing you should keep in mind is that for the listening test, you have to first listen to the recording or listen to the audio before you actually see the question. Do you understand what that means? You have to listen first before you see the questions. So for the very long listening part, it might be a little bit challenging to remember everything that you've heard. And those very long parts are listening part 5 and 6, where you get up to like 3 minutes long. That's the max. Or 3 minutes long. So each listening clip is between 1.5 minutes to 3 and a little over 3 minutes long. So you may want to consider taking notes of very long parts. One other thing you can do is try to practice listening to clips and then trying to summarize what you've heard. It's just a way of training your brain, training your mind to concentrate, to be able to remember things for the purpose of answering questions. Each listening clip is either a conversation between 2 or 3 people, and 2 parts is a report delivered by a single speaker. So listening part 1, 2, and 3 is a conversation between 2 people. Listening part 4 is a report or a news item delivered by 1 speaker. Part 5, a video conversation among 3 people. And part 6 is another presentation or report by a single speaker. All the conversation in the listening are about every day-to-day life context. Remember, CELPIP is really about every day-to-day context, every day-to-day scenario. There is nothing extraordinary, there is nothing out of the ordinary, and there is nothing academic. It could be 2 people talking about their kids in school, or 2 people talking about their jobs, or a news report about a stolen item, or a news report about something that happened in the area. It's really about every day-to-day situation. So there is nothing out of the ordinary, or there is nothing you should be really worried or you should be really, really concerned about. And again, all your questions are about the recording. So you're not going to be asked any question that isn't mentioned in the recording or in the video. So it's really about what you've heard. That's where your questions are coming from. Every part in the listening test has a next button, just like every parts. Again, this button is there so you can move on to the next part before your time is up. Once again, I do not recommend clicking next. The moment you click on next, you will not be able to go back to the previous part. I mean, right now during your practices, there is a back button which you can always navigate to and fro, although I do not recommend that. But on the test, there is no back button. It's just next. So if you've got extra time, you might just want to consider going over your work again to be sure if your answers are actually very correct. If you are sure, there's no problem in clicking next. But remember, you do not have to click on next to move on to the next part. The moment your time is up, the screen automatically shuts down. One thing you should note about speaking parts 1, 2, and 3 is that the questions in these parts are not written. So you cannot read the question, you only hear them. So it's very important that you pay attention to listen to the question. And you also get only 1 question per screen. So listening part 1 has about 6 to 8 questions. 1 question for 1 screen. Only 1 question per screen. You do not read it, you only hear it. However, in listening part 4, 5, and 6, you can actually read the questions and all the questions are presented on the same screen. It's just something you should keep in mind. Lastly, you will only hear the audio once, which means if you miss out some information, you will not be able to replay the audio. Of course, during your practices, you can play it as often as you want, even though I do not recommend that. But on the test, you will not be able to replay the audio. So please pay attention, as well as the questions. You will not be able to replay the questions. So pay attention to make sure that you're listening and you're actually paying attention to the audio. You also cannot pause it. So it's just one straight audio. If it's 3 minutes long, it's 3 minutes long. You cannot pause it. So it's just something you should keep in mind. If you're struggling with the listening right now, a few things can help. But the first thing is try to identify the reason why you are struggling. Why are you struggling? If you're struggling to understand the accent, I would recommend listening to native speakers every day. There are a lot of resources that you can listen from. You could use TED Talk on YouTube, just select the Canadian accent, or you can use the CBC website, which is Canadian news website. It is only Canadian accent, or you can also use the GEMS website. I do not recommend BBC or those or the news platform that uses the British accent. because again, CELPIP is strictly Canadian based. If you're struggling with vocabulary, you should consider building your vocabulary by keeping a vocabulary journal. We have a vocabulary journal. The title is Words Whisperers, a daily dose of English. Build your vocabulary. It has 100 words that are commonly used in CELPIP and IELTS tests with their meaning, examples, and synonyms, and it gives you data for 40 days. So there is no way you're going to build your vocabulary for 40 days and you will not improve. So you should consider building your vocabulary. For some of you, your challenge might be concentrating. That is my problem. I find it hard to really listen. I might be doing a listening practice and I hear a word I've never heard before. My brain would just drift. Oh, that's a new word. What does it mean? While trying to figure out the meaning of the word, recording is gone. It's over. I have to answer the question. So if you're finding it very hard to concentrate, what I would recommend is always do your practices in exam condition and train your mind to focus. So you have to get rid of anything that could cause distraction. Maybe your phones, maybe notification from your iPad, your phone, your laptop, or maybe the TV's on, or the kids are running around, or people are moving around. Try to practice in an exam condition, free of distraction, so you can really see your real potential and you'll be able to figure out what the problem is. Once you figure it out, then it's time to create a solution. Well, this is just a brief overview of the CELPIP listening test. I hope this helps you. And do not forget, we offer complete CELPIP training. And this training covers the reading, the listening, the speaking, and the writing. After 4 weeks of training, you will be confident to take the test, because we're going to cover every single aspect of the test to make sure that you are fully ready and you will walk into the exam hall confident, knowing that you know what you're going to do and you know you're going to get your desired score. If you're interested in signing up for this class, please send us an email using the link on our bio. See you in our next video, and bye.